Welcome to the WWE Podcast Monday Night Raw review. Thank you for joining me, and we're going to get going in just a minute here with a brand new guest co-host, Anthony from Patreon, who's joining us tonight to talk about Monday Night Raw, the WrestleMania implications, the massive 2 heel turns that took place on the show, a new United States champion, and so much more. Definitely a lot to talk about. So let's get everything started right after this. Meat Wheat Podcast, because sometimes it's fun to listen to a moron rant about nothing for half an hour. You want comedy, suspense, news? Well, they have none of that. Or maybe they do. They have whatever they feel like. Only way to know is to listen up. You can follow them on Instagram at Meat Wheat Pod and check them out on Spotify. Again, that's Meat Wheat, MEETWHEAT Podcast. Check them out on Spotify.
This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
It's going to WrestleMania. Claymore! Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
This is my honor. You're going to acknowledge me.
All right, everybody, welcome to the WWE Podcast Monday Night Raw review. Guys, right off the bat, I apologize. I know it's Wednesday when I'm posting a Monday Night Raw review. Not good for downloads, not good for business, but life sometimes dictates that, and specifically a 7-month-old human being dictates when I release these episodes, as I'm just being put through the ringer of no sleep and all that stuff. You guys don't want to hear about that. You don't care. And I understand that, but I'm just giving you the reasons for it. I think you guys are owed an explanation why it's so late. So it's just life. And I'm doing the best to get these out. Now, that said, I do have also mailbag coming today. So I'm doing double duty today. But one thing about the mailbag, I will say before we get into Monday night, you guys, and I put this tweet out there, you guys are just very passionate about wrestling. I am too. That's why I do this. And I appreciate all the voicemails, all the emails, everything. And you guys are just bombarding me. And it's growing to the point, which is great. It's a good problem to have. But it's growing to the point where it's becoming a little bit unmanageable for me to get done in a single day or without splitting it into 2 parts, which I don't want to do. You guys don't want to do. You'd rather have it in one episode. So what I'm going to do, because it's just so much and it's going to turn into a 3-hour plus show, which I cannot do. What I'm going to do is I'm limiting everyone to, I have to, guys, 1 voicemail, 1 email only. And it has to be a 3-minute voicemail. I love the longer voicemails from you guys, but it's not feasible for us at this point. Now, I was debating back and forth whether I should do that or I should just say, okay, we're going to not get to everybody and cut off the show at like an hour and a half. And if I don't get to your email or whatever, I don't get to it. But I think the better way is to at least give more people a voice, even if it's a more limited capacity. So, guys, moving forward, please limit your emails, to a reasonable length. And also your voicemails, you can still send them via email. It doesn't have to be through our voicemail system, but it also needs to be just manageable. Just because it's I sounds like I'm complaining. It's physically not possible for me to continue to do like 2.5, 3 hour plus shows. I've gone beyond 3 hours sometimes too. So, and how long it takes to produce and everything else. There's stuff behind the scenes that takes place. So anyway, I'm very appreciative, and the show is growing because of you guys. But just in order to be feasible and manageable on my end, try to keep things to 3 minutes or less, and an email. If you want to do an email and a voicemail, that's fine, but just make sure it's 1 only. If you have multiple voicemails, I have to pick 1. I'm not going to do multiple. I just can't. Some of you guys send 3 or 4 voicemail. I can't do it. So, you guys are awesome. It's just, think about it from my perspective where, I'm a one-man show with production and everything. So it's a little bit, it's tough. It's tough. So thank you, and continue to send them. I really do appreciate it. So, all right. With all that said, guys, I do appreciate it. And we're going to get into Monday Night Raw. And boy, did we see 2 massive heel turns or what? One bigger than the other. One was already kind of in the works. One of them was a little bit more abrupt in Edge. Obviously, with Damian Priest turning heel, we kind of saw that. He was flirting with heel anyway over the last several weeks. He now fully went heel. I think that's appropriate. Edge going heel, I think, is appropriate. I know it's abrupt, but it feels appropriate. And we're going to get into the conversation with Anthony, a patron of the show, and is in a tier that allows him to come on the show once a month, which, by the way, you guys can do too. If you join Patreon on the $10 tier or higher, you're allowed to come on and join me, just as Anthony is about to do, and co-host with me. You don't have to, but it's an option that's provided to you in the Patreon feed. And also, guys, one last plug, not just for Apple Podcasts going, there's a ad-free button there if you want to just do it directly on Apple Podcasts, but also on my website. I spent a lot of time and money redesigning the website, and there's a VIP area now where there's video updates. I have a couple up there now, as well as ad-free content moving forward. I think I have about a week and a half, 2 weeks worth of ad-free content there. It's not the whole library. It's not something I was able to get all transferred over, but from the last 2 weeks and until forever, you will have ad-free content for everything and video updates that are not found anywhere, not on TikTok, not on Instagram, not on Patreon even. So consider going ad-free and getting video updates on WWEpodcast.com. Click the VIP button. You'll see there's like a login button or go VIP area, and use the promo code WrestleMania, because that'll get you 50% off the first month. The first month is $3, but if you use that promo code, it's $1.50. So I'd really recommend that you do it. It's only going to be, that promo code's only going to be valid through WrestleMania. So I'd encourage you to get yourself signed up. All right. Well, everybody, again, before I jump into anything else, I want to give the conversation over to myself and to Anthony, because I think we had a great conversation. For the first time of us ever talking, I think we had a really nice chemistry, and I appreciated him coming on. And I think a new voice is always good. You guys know that, because I put many of you to sleep, so I'll take that as a compliment. All right, well, that's enough for me right now. I'm going to hand it over to Anthony and myself as we talk about Monday Night Raw. I'll be back later tonight with the mailbag. So thank you, everybody, as always, for listening, and I'll talk to you next time. All right, everybody, welcome to Monday Night Raw, and with the magic of editing and the magic of behind the scenes, you guys don't even know, this is the second time we're doing this, because my recorder on my Skype decided to not work. It is now working, and the reason I'm saying that is because I have with me a new co-host here from Patreon. Anthony from Arizona is here, and I want to introduce him and first of all say thank you for supporting the show. But I'm really excited to have you here. How you doing?
Doing quite well, man. Glad to get on the show and chime in my thoughts, opinions, and leave my thoughts on the show.
Absolutely. And, I before we get started, and I didn't do this the first time around, so I guess the second time is a little bit better, because we had some damn good content, but we'll make it better here. What I want to ask is, let everyone know, how did you get into wrestling, and when did you get into wrestling?
It goes back, back in like 2007 is when I kind of stepped my feet into wrestling. I think my uncle was the first guy who was like kind of into it, and he got my grandfather into it. And when I started watching with my grandfather, the first matches I was seeing were seeing just Undertaker on SmackDown, and just it was a good era for me that I was definitely enjoying. And the first pay-per-view I ever saw was that WrestleMania 23, and I got into Batista Undertaker. I mean, that was a great match. And so I stayed up with wrestling up until about 2010 midway or so. I fell out of the picture from 2011 to about 2017. And when I got back into wrestling was the WrestleMania where the Hardy Boys reunited and came together, and I've kind of been following along since. And it was, for a while, it was mild, but over this last year and a half, more so when I started listening to this podcast, I mean, I've been more heavily invested in the wrestling again, and it's definitely fun and a great escape for me. I mean, it's definitely enjoyable.
That's really cool. I mean, to hear everyone's stories of when they drop off. I've talked to so many people that just drop off of wrestling for many years, all of a sudden come back, and they're invested in the product again. It seems to never really leave them. Once they watch it again, they start getting right back into it. And you started in 2007. That is a hell of a time. While it is kind of the end of the Ruthless Aggression era and starting of the PG era, you did have some excellent match. Like you said, Taker, Batista, Undertaker, HBK at WrestleMania 25 in Houston. That was, again, to me, still one of the best, if not the best WrestleMania match of all time, is that matchup. But yeah, and then coming back in 2017, I was actually at that WrestleMania in Orlando, and sadly, stupidly, the only time that I moved from my seat was to, I don't know, I was going to get a t-shirt or going to the bathroom or something, I can't remember. The damn Hardy Boys music hit as I was underneath, and I'm hearing it, and I'm like, you have to be kidding me. It was like one of the biggest pops of the night, and my stupid, self is downstairs getting merch, and I'm like, I will never ever forgive myself for that. But yeah, so that was a cool time, really nice. So that night, I believe, ended with Roman Reigns and Undertaker, and that whole debacle. So cool. Yeah, it's always fun to hear how people get in and out of wrestling or how they started, and so good stuff. So let's jump into Monday Night Raw. Let's fast forward here, and we're a few weeks away, 4 weeks away, roughly 4.5, 5 weeks until WrestleMania, and we got a lot of things moving forward on Monday Night Raw, particularly headlined by Edge turning heel. We'll get to that towards the end of the show. I mean, that is a big development. Of course, Damian Priest turning heel. But let's start with the beginning of the show here, and we'll go in order, and we'll get through this, guys, and I promise that we'll make it better than the first one you didn't hear. So let's go through, and let's start with what opened the show, and that was the Kevin Owens show, and having it start with KO. The guests on their show were the Alpha Academy, and you and I talked the first time that nobody heard and said that they had great chemistry. Do you have anything to say about this particular segment? And did you enjoy the segment, but also the segment that led to the match?
I thought the segment was okay. It was, just the back and forth, the shoosh and the shut up, and then the stunner. It led on into the match, and I thought it was fine. But the match, again, I thought it was a great match. I mean, no arguing it. I mean, it really set the show. I mean, it was a good match to start with.
It was excellent. I mean, what do you expect from these four guys? Even Otis, who is much more limited in the ring, still does his part and does it well. The shooshing and all that stuff from Shorty G to what they've done here is light years from what he was, getting berated backstage every chance that Vince got to write somebody a script that had to make fun of Chad Gable's height 5 times a show, to being one of the really shining lights right now of Monday Night Raw in this tag team, this Alpha Academy tag team, which when they put them together many months ago, I don't think there was a lot of high hope for them, but boy, have they excelled. To me, they're not just two individuals put together and labeled as a tag team. They feel like a legit tag team. That's rare in WWE tag team land. So I'm really enjoying what they've done here, and the chemistry between them, the shooshing, the thank yous, just everything that Chad has come up with. Everything he's saying right now is just being slapped on a t-shirt. He's doing such good work, and I could see him as a future world champion. Is that in 2022, or would Vince actually pull the trigger on that, given his height and the stigma around his height that Vince has a problem with? I don't know, but Chad Gable right now is on fire, and I'm really enjoying this tag team. This matchup, of course, was excellent, and it ended with a KO and Seth Rollins victory. So, did you have anything else to add to this?
Yeah, to follow up with what you were saying with Gable there, he's definitely the mastermind behind that tag team. And when I heard the story about the two being the best friends and all, and I mean they're even neighbors, so I hear, and they spend a lot of time on the road together. They definitely have built a lot of great chemistry there. And I mean, even when they first formed, I think Michael Ritter went on. I think he set the tone. He always had. I think he essentially told us to keep our eye on the Alpha Academy, and they definitely did a great job of building up over these last couple months, and they're doing great work right now. I think they're definitely the tag team champions for a reason.
Yes, and I think that's an interesting and a good point to bring up, that with these two as actual behind the scenes real good friends and neighbors, I think that has translated very nicely into the ring. You can just feel the connection with them, and I hope that there are no plans to break this team up. I haven't heard anything, but God forbid. I mean, right now they are both exactly where they need to be, particularly Chad Gable. And you forget that he's an actual Olympian. I mean, the guy is a true athlete in the real sense of the word. So I'm a big fan of Chad Gable. And I could actually see him turning babyface at some point, just kind of being that lovable but tough, shorter stature guy that has earned his credibility in front of the fans, has grinded his teeth and all that, and the fans start to clam on to the catchphrases and the shoes and stuff. Like I remember when Daniel Bryan started doing the yes thing, it was supposed to be done as annoying, and it just caught fire, and fans just really gravitated to it. Now I'm not saying this is Daniel Bryan 2.0, but certainly we've seen it before where things catch fire, but they do so in a way that is endearing. The fans are endeared to that particular phrase or whatever. And I could see shoosh or the GPA thing or the thank you being something that is easily transferable to a babyface whenever they turn them.
Yeah, I've definitely been loving the whole, all his catchphrases and whatnot. Unfortunately, I mean, Chad Gable, I mean, his character's definitely shown that he could be a champion, but of course with the championship unification, I think it's kind of hard for him to stack up to a guy like Roman Reigns right now. But if he ever got the chance, I don't know if he'd have to split up from the team, but he definitely could see himself in a higher one of the higher mid-title roles or something along that line for WWE's liking. But love his character and definitely excited to see how the weeks turn up upcoming Mania for Otis and Gable there.
So let me ask you, just point blank, what do you think is going to happen with Stone Cold? Do you think that what'll happen? I mean, my thing is that Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins will lose that tag team match next week. There'll be no road to WrestleMania for the two, and then Austin may follow suit the week after once Kevin Owens just berates Texas for the 8th week in a row. Finally, we get Stone Cold to come out and defend the entire state of Texas. And so that's my guess if they're going to do a match. But what's your thought on Stone Cold, Steve Austin, and Kevin Owens? Do you think it's going to happen or not happen?
It's tough. I want to see. I think I'd want to see it. I mean, and obviously Stone Cold doesn't want to put anything lackluster, on TV. He definitely wants to put up, the best of him. Do I think, like you said, do you think a match will happen? We're unsure, but, maybe he shows up, gets a stunner. Next week, definitely, I have Alpha Academy retaining there. I don't think Rollins and KO are ready to win the championship right now. However, it's kind of, going into Mania, I mean, it's kind of hard not, I mean, how do you not put Seth Rollins into the show? I mean, he definitely deserves a spot there. And if KO is the only one getting a ticket there, so be it. But it'd be, you can't just, throw out this dumb old Texas thing just for nothing. I mean, they're definitely doing it for a reason.
Oh, no question about it. 100%. And I think it will end up minimal, at the very minimum, going to be stunners and beer all over KO, even if it's not an actual match. But you're right. The biggest victim right here is Seth Rollins. The biggest collateral damage of taking the WWE Championship away from Raw and putting it into one match, which is, to me, I've expressed many times on the show, is just a travesty of things. You are taking that opportunity away from Seth at WrestleMania. And you're right. If Kevin does go off against Stone Cold, then yeah, where the hell does that leave Seth Rollins? That's a good question, but we'll leave that to talk about another day. Omas versus T-Bar was next, and from our first conversation, you weren't a big fan of this?
No, I mean, we're getting the same thing every week. Omas is just crushing opponent after opponent, and Omos tries to, I suppose, maybe give an upper hand to T-Bar, saying this is the biggest guy he's faced. Height-wise, maybe, but I mean, the match being a series of maybe 3-4 moves, and Omos coming out the win here with ease. It's definitely leaving us hungry for seeing something actually happen with Omas.
And I don't know what that something is. I've said this before. I think it's Omas who is going to be in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, and he'll win it, and he'll stand there and he'll have to pose like Andre the Giant does on the statue, because that's just what you do. I don't see Omas in a singles match at WrestleMania because of his limitations. WWE doesn't trust him yet. I don't trust him yet in a matchup. He's not capable yet of, I don't think, having a one-on-one match at WrestleMania. There's no sign of that happening. I think that Omas is just going to be the guy that is the winner of the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. That's probably what's going to happen here. But right now he's spinning his wheels. He's squashing people. And he's so big, he's so limited. And I'm not saying that in a negative way, because I don't need everyone to flip flop and fly. I think having this different type of body and different style of a match is good for the product. I don't need every match to feel and look the same. And Omas, I think, brings that, if anything else. He brings that sense of kind of just the big man match that we don't see a whole lot of in WWE. So there is that. And I'm a big fan of Omas. He has a presence that is undeniable on TV. When he's on TV, even if his match is formulaic and kind of boring, you'll watch. And that's really, that's such an asset for WWE, and they know that.
Yeah, for Omos right now, for me, definitely, I love his presence. Unfortunately, I just don't think we're going to get a whole lot out of him. I'm prepared for the slow build, and I'm kind of, quite honestly, right now, I'm more prepared to see how he evolves backstage, more so than in the ring right now, just because it's going to take some time. So let's get some character in him.
Exactly. Yeah, he does need character beyond just kind of his mean face. Honestly, the same thing could be said for Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey's got two emotional states, and that's it. It's elated or super angry, and that's all she shows. There's no middle ground for Ronda Rousey, but I think Omas could do well by showing a range of emotions and getting a little bit of depth in his character. I think that's a great way to put it, and really something he could work on, that anybody can work on regardless of their size in the ring. So, okay, Becky Lynch, Doudrop, Nikki ASH versus Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan, and Bianca Belair. The biggest story coming out of this was the use of the hair from Bianca whipping Becky Lynch in her stomach and the sounds it made. So take it away.
You're listening to the WWE Podcast. We'll be right back after this short break.
Meat Wheat Podcast, because sometimes it's fun to listen to a moron rant about nothing for half an hour. You want comedy, suspense, news? Well, they have none of that. Or maybe they do. They have whatever they feel like. Only way to know is to listen up. You can follow them on Instagram at Meat Wheat Pod and check them out on Spotify. Again, that's Meat Wheat, MEETWHEAT Podcast. Check them out on Spotify.
Welcome back to the WWE Podcast. Let's get back to more great wrestling audio.
Yeah, definitely the whole, keep on nagging at the hair the entire match. I definitely love that. I thought it was a good spot there with, in the turnbuckle, using the hair to just, pull her into that turnbuckle. And then, here she had the wrapping around the ropes there with the braid. We kind of alluded there back in the first casting there about, that hair whip, was her added sound. Nonetheless, I mean, it was brutal. You could see all the welts on her skin. I mean, it definitely left you, feeling a little, ooh, like you knew it hurt.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. For all the flack WWE or just pro wrestling in general gets for being, quote, fake, this is one that I would love to see somebody tell me how that one was faked. Even if the sound was pushed in, even if the sound was post-edited or whatever, or they were able to, on a live show, have that 10-second delay and stick that sound effect in. I don't think they did, but even if they did, I don't care because the results are the same. It looked brutal. There was a real welts on Becky Lynch's stomach, and it was kind of hilariously produced by her, meaning that she wore that outfit knowing that this is going to be a spot where they were going to do these things, of course, but that's fine. But she was like pushing her stomach out to the camera instead of curling over and running backstage, which if you were truly injured and your stomach hurt that much, you would just curl, bend over, and run to the back. But that's not what she did, because it's fine. It's production. She needs to make sure that they get the best shot possible for all the video packages they do. So I get that. But it was well done. I think it put fear into Becky Lynch. We haven't seen her act like that before. And I think it will result in Becky Lynch probably doing some kind of barring of her hair and a contract stipulation in the coming weeks. She'll find a way, as the heel that she is, will try to find a way to ban her hair as a use of a weapon, or if she does during the match, then she'll lose the matchup. That'll be a disqualification. But one last thing, of course, I gotta ask is, what do you think about Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch at WrestleMania? And maybe an early call. Do you think Becky Lynch drops the belt at WrestleMania?
Ooh, well. Going into Mania, definitely, I know we want to see more out of these two superstars. Again, the match definitely, it builds Bianca going into the premium live event. I'm definitely expecting a show there. I don't see, I would see Becky Lynch, if she's going to lose it. I mean, I think this is a fair time to lose it, because Bianca, she had the whole go to the back of the division. She did. She faced pretty much everybody that was on the roster and built her way up, and here she is in the title picture. I mean, I would say there's no better time to give the belt to Bianca. And following that, I mean, we'll see what happens there with Rhea Ripley.
Again, Rhea Ripley, I'm glad you brought that up too. Of course, Bianca Belair got the victory here with hitting Nikki with KOD. I don't think Nikki's won a match in like 3 months, and I'm not complaining about it. Makes me happy. But Rhea Ripley, honestly, is one of those stars that you look at and go, I could see her being pushed into the main event here. I could see this being a triple threat, because Rhea Ripley has made a case, very nice case over the last several months, that she's back, she's no longer in a tag team, and that she's here to play, and made a lot of noise in the last several weeks. And I think that there is something to be said for Rhea Ripley and being in the main event. I don't think they'll add her to as a triple threat to make it a triple threat. Do you think they'll actually go that road, or maybe wait till after WrestleMania and have her face the winner at that point?
I think they have to wait till after Mania. I think it'd definitely be a fun match to see, but if you're adding her to the match and have maybe Bianca pin Rhea Ripley, then you're protecting Becky, but you're not really. I don't think that really puts over Bianca. I think with the shortcomings that Bianca had in the past, you definitely want her to single-handedly beat Becky. So sets that sets it forward that, hey, I finally beat her.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you're right too. I mean, I'm a big fan of one-on-one matches in general. It's a rule that I follow, that one-on-one matches should take place at WrestleMania. But if Rhea Ripley is lined up as an opponent for post-Mania for either Bianca or Becky, that to me is perfectly fine. And then you could do your triple threat. Maybe they have a rematch with whoever whoever loses the belt. Say we have Becky drop the belt to Bianca, then Rhea interjects herself, and at Backlash, no, I'm not going to say WrestleMania Backlash. It's just Backlash. At Backlash, we will have a triple threat, and then you can do your triple threat. But I'm cool with it being one-on-one at WrestleMania. So, okay, let's move on here, and this is where we ended our first conversation, but it was Robert Roode versus Tommaso Ciampa. What are your thoughts on this, as Tommaso Ciampa gets a roll-up victory on Roode?
Couldn't have a WWE show without a routinely roll-up. So definitely gotta love that. Ciampa, unfortunately, they're playing with his music there. I've been wondering for a couple weeks now. I mean, are they trying to push Ciampa to the main roster? Suppose we'll see how that turns out. But obviously, we've definitely seen the playing around of moving superstars down to NXT, and then move some NXT to the main roster just for a couple matches. So they'll probably keep going down that route, and that's fine. But a filler match just to put it out there, and then build up towards tomorrow night with following up with Tonight Show on NXT 2.0 with Braun Breaker and Champa against Rood against the Dirty Dogs there. So a match just to get us by there.
Yeah, I don't think the match was as important as what they were trying to get to, which was the post-match beatdown from the Dirty Dogs. I mean, just to leave Champa laying, I think that was really the whole point of this. The roll-up victory means nothing for either man because Robert Roode means, I'm sorry, he doesn't mean a whole lot in pro wrestling. He just doesn't. He's got a good body. He's got a decent look, but he just doesn't have any value that would make you concerned if he won or lost a match. You just go, oh, okay, he won. Oh, okay, he lost. No one cares. I mean, really, like, actually nobody. And, you know, that's not to say Robert Roode can't be somebody, but the way that they've booked him so many years, we've just been educated to just be numb to whatever he does. If he wins, if he loses, no one cares. So this didn't do anything for anybody other than push ahead the narrative that we want to see Champa get victory over Ziggler and eventually get revenge and beat both of them down. I think that's ultimately what we wanted to see. And that's the point of this whole thing. So it was okay. It was okay. It was just your kind of run-of-the-mill matchup here that standard didn't do a whole lot for anybody. But, okay, let's move on. Reggie and Dana Brooke versus Tamina and Akira Tazawa. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, you know, it's your lunchable break there. Am I right? I mean, I'm not sure what much to say about it. I mean, it's getting a little, it's a little too cringe. It's getting a little cringe to watch there with the, now, I mean, I suppose WWE is turning into a makeout show. I'm not sure how that's all going. You know, Reggie and Dana, it's turning out to be some weird couple. And then, you know, Tamina, last week I got a kick out of it with Tamina tossing Akira on the ground, but here it's just a little weird for me. It's a little over the top. I mean, I could do without it.
It's the entertainment part of WWE. I mean, we got the E here in the WWE, and yeah, I didn't really care for this. I mean, I guess the biggest thing coming out of this was, okay, Dana and Reggie kissed and Tamina and Tazawa kissed. Okay, I mean, got to add a little drama to the soap opera, and that's what this was. And that's why you and I and most of the people listening to wrestling podcasts don't like this, because people that listen to wrestling podcasts are typically more of the either not old-fashioned, but the long-standing wrestling fan, the one that likes kind of traditional wrestling, not necessarily the ones that are all about the entertainment-y soap opera stuff. But it's part of the show. I didn't hate it. It didn't make me lose my mind. It's just kind of the part that I look at and go, yeah, that's clearly not for me. Like, that's not what's geared towards a 37-year-old male, audience demographic that has been watching wrestling for 25 years. That's not what this is geared towards. It's fine. I really don't. I don't hate this, but I understand the need or the want for them to put this in. So, all right. It was kind of a harmless segment, just silliness. The Hurt Business that are kind of together, not together, fighting with Bobby Lashley, not with Bobby Lashley. No one explains anything about this group. The most mysterious group of all time ends up facing the Mysterios, and I'm reading the description to make sure I don't miss anything. The last part of this match, The Miz pulled Dom's leg while the ref was distracted, so Ray chased him through the crowd, and that allowed Benjamin to get the roll-up on Dominic. That's right, got the roll-up on Dominic for the victory. So, yeah, go ahead once again, Anthony.
I forgot it was a roll-up.
Yep.
But more so what I got out of this was the promo in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Classic line there, calling The Miz a Hollywood mega dumbass. Mm-hmm. Gotta love it. It's a fine match. Not much to take out of it. I mean, definitely the whole weird deal with the Hurt Business. I mean, they seem to carry on the names even without Lashley and MVP. They're doing their thing, and they're definitely your lower of the card tag team for me. Seeing Rey Mysterio chase him off and Dominic taking the pin there, it gets us to the next segment.
It does. And you know, you're right about that. That was a good line. I got to say, even it was clearly written, but it was one of those written lines that, you know, sometimes even written promos every once in a while work. Anything really from Dominic is good, because he needs to actually say something. He's finally starting to show something, even if they are written lines. They're at least realizing, oh yeah, we can't just have him in the ring doing stuff. He needs to say stuff too. And they're starting to finally realize that. And that line was good. And The Miz came back and did his did a nice kind of rebuttal against that. And, you know, he reminded us that he main evented WrestleMania against John Cena. And, I mean, I remember that as well. albeit it was really about Rock and Cena. I mean, he was just the sideshow as the WWE champion, which was hilarious. But to me, this was all about just getting to the Mysterios versus Miz and Logan Paul. Logan Paul was not in the arena, and he was probably too busy on his YouTube channel or doing whatever he does. And Logan Paul, look, I'm not a celebrity fan. I'm just a fan of WWE bringing in celebrities. But that being said, if they're going to book them in the right role of being a heel when they come in, I'm okay with it. So, what do you think about this matchup here with the Miz and Logan Paul that's going to take place against the Mysterios at WrestleMania?
I think it's fine. I think it's better than last year. I think it was back at SummerSlam. I'm not too sure where it was, but I think it's better to have Logan Paul here as a heel teaming up with the Miz rather than being like some, halfway, not sure what he's going to do. And then Logan, I think last time around I think he did something to Miz. Nonetheless, I mean, it'll be a fine match, but I mean, more so is what's better than one celebrity is having two at Mania. It's it seems to be the routinely thing every year, so it is what it is.
And I got to say, we have Johnny Knoxville on SmackDown facing Sami Zayn, presumably, that's not a confirmed match, presumably for the IC title, which will be a travesty of travesties if Johnny Knoxville's competing for the IC title. And just so many things are wrong with that. But then on this side, you have Logan Paul in a tag team match. And I will say that both of these celebrities have a high bar to try to reach from what Bad Bunny did last year. I mean, Bad Bunny, as much as I couldn't stand the whole personality of him and everything that he brought to the table on a personality promo perspective, in the ring, he set the bar. And so I think he may have set the bar unachievably high for future celebrities coming in at WrestleMania. Even Logan Paul, who is one of the better athletes they brought in. He was an amateur wrestler in high school and in college. He did, obviously, boxing. He did MMA. He is a hell of an athlete, but that doesn't always translate to a well-oiled machine in pro wrestling. It just doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't work out at all. But I just will say that the bar has been set crazy high after what we saw from Bad Bunny last year.
Right. I have to say, going into this one, do we think that the Mysterios can make Logan Paul look as good as because I think because Bad Bunny, I think it was good. The whole diesel truck, that's his entrance. I think, again, the bar is pretty high there for him. It was a great sell by John Morrison. Definitely helped him out there with that sunset flip or whatever it was. Can the Mysterios put over Logan Paul? Or I think it's more so the Mysterios are just out to get their revenge, but it should be a fine match.
Yeah, I'm not super concerned about the quality of the matchup. I'm sure that he'll be serviceable enough where he won't spend a whole bunch of time in the ring, and he'll have that crutch of a tag team partner of The Miz to do about 80% of the work. So it's not a one-on-one match. He's not going to be too much of the spotlight because he'll have three other guys in that match that can work the match, and one tag team partner of The Miz that's probably going to be in, as I said, at least 75 to 80% of the match. That's my guess. That's my guess is that that's what's going to happen. But all right, let's move on. A few more segments here of Raw, and then we'll close things out. But we're starting to get into some big stuff here, guys. RK Bro versus the Street Profits. Now, this wasn't a big deal until we got a potential injury scare from Randy Orton after the From the Heavens from Montez Ford. Apparently right now it's a injury scare. I haven't heard of anything confirmed yet from Randy Orton that he could be seriously injured, but he was clearly injured from the From the Heavens, obviously not on purpose, from Montez Ford. But this matchup was really good. I thought this was maybe the match of the night with these two, and we're still waiting for the other shoe to drop with Orton turning on Riddle. We haven't seen it yet, but let me get your take, Anthony. What did you think about all this?
I thought it was a good match. I quite enjoyed it. Definitely you get your spots with Randy Orton, getting his DDT, the good old power slam, everything. I love seeing Randy Orton out there, and Street Profits. You can always count on them to put on a solid match. So it's good to see them on TV. Not so much for the character. I think it's okay, but definitely a good matchup that I enjoyed. And yeah, following that from the heavens or whatever it is there from Montez Ford. I tried to catch it. I mean, I think the knee landed there on Orton's chest. I don't know exactly how it turned out, but obviously you could see Orton there grimacing, and it's a little weird with the trying to reach for the rope there with his foot, and then Angelo Dawkins pushing it away from the ropes. It doesn't get the rope break, but it's a good match, great match. I loved it. Unfortunately, we're unsure how Orton's doing there.
Yeah, and I do hope for his sake that being so close to WrestleMania that there isn't something seriously wrong with him. And, I haven't heard anything. I'm looking at, articles right now as you're speaking, and everything seems to see injury scare, injury scare, injury scare. That would tell you that if it was something more serious, he would have already gotten an MRI. He would have already gotten, a diagnosis of 6 to 8 months for shoulder recovery, whatever it was. So clearly it was something that was maybe initially thought to be very serious and has, I guess, presented itself not as the case. So we'll have to see, and hopefully it's not, because I think Randy Orton Riddle at WrestleMania would be a hell of a lot of fun. And but yeah, this matchup was, I thought, really good. And Orton just being Orton. Orton could be asleep during a match, and he could be sleepwalking and probably put on an A+ match because he's just that good. He's at this point, he could do this in his sleep, literally. And so all four guys, I think, busted their asses in this matchup. And, it really was a nice kind of send off, if this is one of the final matches for RK Bro, that, we would get to remember them by. And also next week, because boy, WWE has been pushing this triple threat for the Raw Tag Team titles. They've pushed this. Maybe this is the most important the Raw Tag Team titles have ever felt. I mean, just because of how much they've been promoting it, they actually promoted it weeks in advance for a tag team title match, of all things. So I'm looking forward to this tag team title triple threat next week. And I think that these two individuals of Riddle and Orton, hopefully Orton can go. If he can't, maybe Riddle goes it alone or finds a stand-in. And I don't think they're destined to win it anyway. But let me get your thoughts.
You're listening to the WWE Podcast. We'll be right back after this short break.
Meat Wheat Podcast, because sometimes it's fun to listen to a moron rant about nothing for half an hour. You want comedy, suspense, news? Well, they have none of that. Or maybe they do. They have whatever they feel like. Only way to know is to listen up. You can follow them on Instagram at Meat Wheat Pod and check them out on Spotify. Again, that's Meat Wheat, MEETWHEAT Podcast. Check them out on Spotify.
Welcome back to the WWE Podcast. Let's get back to more great wrestling audio.
Yeah, going into this tag team title match here, back when they're doing the segments, just doing the scooter race and the trivia show and all that, I thought they were just going to get the rematch, get it over with, get it out the way. But I definitely like that WWE here has prolonged it, left us waiting. Definitely keeps you, I think it keeps us invested. And I actually, I want to see this match happen. And I think Alpha Academy has done a good job of excelling the titles a little bit. Not that RK Bro didn't. They definitely did a good job carrying it for a couple months there. I'm excited to see the match. I mean, it should be great.
Yeah, I have no question about the quality of the match. The quality of the match is not even in peril for me. To me, it's not about that at all. And that's what's going to be great about this matchup is if you're looking for great just wrestling, if you tune into a wrestling show to watch, wrestling, I think you'll be very satisfied with this matchup that takes place. Probably, you'd imagine the way that they've been promoting it and how heavily, that this would be the main event of the show next week on Raw. I can't confirm that, but you would imagine how, with the big names that are in this matchup as well, that it would be the main event of the show, which would tell you, if this is the main event of the show, I would be very weary of, in a good way, of what can happen during that. Because if this tag team title match is the main event of the show and the Alpha Academy end up retaining, then I could see somebody like a Stone Cold coming out to confront Kevin Owens if he gets on the mic and starts, complaining about having he has no road to WrestleMania now. So those are the kinds of things I'd look for. We'll see. Again, maybe just wishful thinking on my part, but back to the matchup here. The one last thing I'll say is that, that part with Orton trying to get his foot on the rope was a little weird because Orton, I think he was a bit shell-shocked from the presumed injury he just suffered, and he was kind of disoriented he knew he had to hit his spot of getting his foot on the rope, but he didn't quite make it, so Angelo Dawkins pushed it off, but it wasn't going to make it anyway. Like, Orton was a couple of inches away from the rope. He would have missed it anyway, so they were all just trying to hit their spots the best they could, but it was a little weird.
Right. And then going into next week with that tag team title match, I mean, definitely, if it's a main eventer, which I think I would hope so, as the build-up's been there for a while, definitely leaves with the end of the show, I mean, definitely is open for a segment. I mean, whether we see Austin, and I think I've seen a report, I mean, that Austin should be showing up the week of 316 is what I've heard. That leaves us a little close to Mania, but, whenever we can get it, I mean, I suppose we'll see. I'm going to be curious, though, is it just going to be a flat-ended match where, Alpha Academy probably retains here, or does that leave the book open for seeing what happens with Rollins and KO, or does it allude to an RK Bro breakup there? I'm not too sure, but it doesn't necessarily feel like RK Bro is ready to break up, but I suppose we'll see.
And I'm looking ahead to the whole what's the schedule look like coming up, and maybe if they were going to bring back Austin, what would it look like, and what's the best place to do it. So next week they're in Cleveland. The following week they're in Jacksonville, Florida. The following week they are in the Allstate Arena in Rosemont, Illinois, i.e., I think, right, and they'll call it the Shadow of Chicago, I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure they'll say something, because I don't want to say Rosemont, Illinois. They'll say we're in the shadow of Chicago, like they do when they're kind of near New York City, where we're in the shadow of New York City. No, you're not. Like they just like to embellish things. So I think that the Allstate Arena, Austin has said many times, is one of his favorite arenas of all time. They used to call it, there was another, the Rosemont, I think it was the Rosemont Horizon. They used to, that it was pre-named before. And he has said many times he loves that arena because of the acoustics. He loves the energy that particular crowd brings. So I know that's the 21st of March. I mean, at that point, you're 2 weeks from WrestleMania. I would imagine they don't want to go that close. But they could do the week before. If they do the week before, they're in Jacksonville, Florida. It's March 14th. It's sad that it's not March 16th. I know. Maybe they can delay Raw till Wednesday, March 16th. But, yeah, I don't know. Just looking ahead of the schedule. It's Cleveland, Jacksonville, and then the shadow of Chicago and Rosemont, Illinois. And then it gets to Pittsburgh after that. So, I don't know. Just looking ahead and kind of maybe thinking about where it could happen if it happens. So, okay. Let's get to the two big things that happen on Monday Night Raw here, the two things that everyone's talking about. And the first thing, kind of the appetizer before the entree here, Damian Priest versus Finn Balor for the United States Championship, a match that I thought was really good. And again, a lot. I got to say, a lot of quality wrestling on Monday night. There wasn't a whole lot of bad matches. Outside of the Reginald and all the Dana Brooke stuff, which wasn't meant to be a great match anyway. This was a really nice Monday Night Raw in terms of wrestling, as I'm thinking about it now. And this was no exception here. Finn Balor and I think Damian Priest did a very nice job. And it ended up with Finn Balor winning the United States Championship. And I think it is a breath of fresh air for the title. It felt very stale and kind of held hostage almost by Damian Priest. But the most important thing, I guess it depends on your perspective, but the other important thing is not just Finn winning, but also Damian Priest turning heel and fully turning heel. And he had a post-match promo that really solidified that, and then attacked Balor after the match, throwing him into the announce table. So did you enjoy this? What did you think?
I did enjoy it. Going into the match, it was a great night for wrestling, and I definitely loved it. Going into this matchup, I'm happy for Balor. Weeks ago, we thought Balor dropped off the face of the earth. Vince gave up on him. But it's glad to see him back into the picture, and definitely getting a good spot here where he can, maybe, bring some light to the United States Championship and a little more excitement there on Raw. I thought it was a great match, some good spots there. After the match, following it with the little promo there, it's just the whole thing with Damian is his character's just been so confusing. When the whole change happened, splitting him into two personalities, I really bought into it. I was there for a couple weeks, and then it just got old. And I mean, it was just confusing when he wants to turn, and when his emotions really settle in. But I was kind of, when I seen Damian out there just like after his loss, I was waiting to see him explode, but instead he just comes in the ring and he comes in as Priest, and he just calls out the crowd for not cheering for him during his title reign, and then obviously the attack there on Balor. I think that he definitely needed to solidify who he was going to be there, and I think it's the right move for him to be heel, because we've just been so unsure what's happening with Priest.
Yeah, this was the right move by creative. There's no question that turning him heel, which he was already kind of organically turning heel anyway, because fans were just so confused, as you said, just not sure what he is. And then the split personality was never explained. It was never explaining, where did this come from? How did this happen? What triggers it? And why? Did something happen in your childhood? Of course, there's no backstory. We're just supposed to accept it on face value. A lot of things in WWE are that way. At times, it's just, don't dig beyond the surface. Just accept it and move on, which I'm not a big fan of. But anyway, so Damian again is coming out, and I thought you're right. I thought for sure he's going to snap. He was going to attack him from behind, and instead he just kind of calmly comes in and cuts his promo, blames the fans, and then attacks Finn. I still don't understand either why his alter ego evil side is named Damian when he was been Damian Priest all along. So I don't know, like, if you're Damian Priest, but your alter ego evil person, your evil twin, is also just Damian, like, why are we? I mean, like, can't you just come up with something else? Come up with anything else. Another name that you've given it. Come up with something. And yet they've named it the same name that you are when you're supposed to be this kind of just level-headed guy. I don't know. It's weird. But I'm a big fan of Damian Priest. His delivery, his promos are usually very good. He's got a very nice, deep talking voice, a very commanding voice when he speaks. That's great. And again, this matchup, if they do it again, and it looks like they are, I have no problem with it whatsoever. Finn Balor and Damian Priest, I think, did an excellent job. And I think that their follow-up match, when that happens, which it will, is going to be just as good, if not better. So, and you're right too. Hilariously, or maybe not, maybe kind of sadly, with Finn Balor being completely just relegated to the just depths of WWE hell, so to speak, of just being losing match after match. And as you said, being forgotten, to just bam, he's U.S. champion. I have no problem with that. It's just crazy how from week to week things can change so drastically, to going from complete irrelevance and losing match after match after match for months on end to boom, United States champion. So I'm a big Finn Balor fan. I think that it's well deserved, and I think that he'll have a really nice run, because Finn is too good of a talent to be sitting backstage.
I definitely agree with you there. With Damian there, obviously we'll never get our answers about the whole personality deal, but some people are curious. I mean, like, some people think that Damian had a strong reign, and I think it was like 179 days there, so half a year that he held the title. He was definitely a defending champion, so hats off to him, I suppose. But it was just weird, and I mean, I'm looking forward to see what Balor can do here.
Yeah, me too. I think Balor is going to have a nice run, and it refreshes the belt very nicely. I think they have paid attention to the mid-tier belts just very nicely over the last, just 2 weeks. I mean, the IC title got a new holder after Shinsuke held it for seemingly forever, and really at the fault of WWE, they did nothing with him, not the fault of Shinsuke, and now they did the same thing with Damian Priest. So it's just, I mean, it's clear that they have just somebody in a boardroom meeting said, hey, we should probably shuffle the mid-tier belts, and they did the same thing on like just a week apart. So I mean, it's fine. I don't have any problem with it, because I think both of them needed new holders for the time being. So, all right, now we get to the main event here, and the main event was really just who's going to step up to Edge, who's going to be Edge's WrestleMania opponent. And I know I had said for a few weeks that people have been speculating it could be Cody Rhodes, and Edge did say something about the roads to WrestleMania, and he emphasized roads, maybe on purpose or not. I thought, it's Cody Rhodes. It's main event of Raw. We've got 4 weeks till WrestleMania. There's going to be somebody big coming out that we haven't seen in a while, some big return. I thought it was going to be Cody Rhodes. and it was AJ Styles. And I have to sadly admit that I was disappointed in seeing AJ Styles, because I think the anticipation of Cody Rhodes coming back is high, and having AJ come out, he hasn't been established very well over the last really year or more. He's been in the tag team with Omas. He got beaten by Omas pretty quickly. He has not been on a hot streak. He hasn't got much mic time. AJ has kind of fallen by the wayside, and that's just a fact. And so when he comes out to challenge Edge, you're like, oh, okay, AJ, cool, but you feel guilty of not being as excited as maybe you should be because of all the damage they did to AJ over the last year and a half. And having him come out to challenge Edge, I think, number one, the crowd reacted much better to AJ than I thought they would. I thought that they were kind of be lackluster, but they seemed to be pretty excited about AJ challenging Edge. And then the rest is history. So before I go any further, what did you think about AJ when he initially, his music hit? Were you disappointed? Were you hoping it was somebody else? What are your thoughts?
I can't say I was surprised. More so, I think that the whole Rhodes line you're quoting there, I think it definitely slipped past me. What stood out from that promo more so is when you heard Edge say "phenomenal." That definitely stuck out, and you definitely thought, you kind of thought AJ and Edge. So when he came out, I wasn't too surprised there. Definitely the good reaction from the crowd. Definitely enjoying AJ's presence there. I think it's a match that they want to see. While these two stars are, both a good matchup, seeing what happens to Edge at the end of this promo here, definitely leaves you wanting this match a lot more than initially thought.
Yeah, that was the job of this segment, and I think it was a job that was accomplished. I really do. I think that they took a match that was as cold as ice, as big of names as those two are. I think that it's cold. Nobody was sitting there going, "Oh my God, these two need to fight." No, I mean, you look at it beforehand, you go, "Yeah, that's a nice matchup. That's a pay-per-view matchup, but to me, it's not a WrestleMania matchup." But they quickly escalated that, and I think that they have made most fans very interested in the follow-up to this and seeing AJ get revenge on Edge, because Edge turned heel. I mean, that's the big story coming out of this is, yes, AJ is Edge's opponent, but Edge turns heel, and he checks another box off of his bucket list for his return, and now gets to write his own story of the end of his career. We've seen Edge since Rumble of 2020 be a babyface. So it's been 2 years of him as a babyface. We've gotten a chance to love him. We've gotten a chance to cheer for him. He's been able to have some great matches. He's main evented WrestleMania in a triple threat last year with Roman and Daniel Bryan. He has been able to tag team with his wife, for God's sakes. And now I think he wants to explore the art of turning heel again. And Edge as a heel, if you guys have not seen it or forgotten, is brilliant. So I am really looking forward to Edge as a heel. It did feel a bit abrupt, but I'm ready for it. Did you have any interest in seeing Edge turn heel? Or are you kind of, you skeptical? Are you concerned about Edge turning heel here?
I definitely, I'm buying into it. Edge is great. I don't know the last time he was heel. I mean, ever since he came back into the picture from that neck injury and whatnot, obviously we just cheer for him because, I mean, we love the nostalgia of our old superstars, and he's still good enough to put on a show. So, definitely we're getting more out of Edge here, having him heel, and back to the past. I mean, when I left the picture of WWE, I mean, he was still, I believe, heel, and then obviously you see back to the Rollins hinting at the taking out Edge there back in 2014. So I just don't know the last time we got to see this out of Edge, and I think it's definitely a route that they should be going right now.
Yeah, it's just 2 years is definitely long enough to get your emotions out in a positive way for a star before you start to maybe get a little bit stale of it. And yes, Edge has not been there consistently. He's not an everyday superstar. He's there every few months to have X number of matches a year. I don't know, 3-4 matches a year, whatever is on his contract. So he never feels like he's overstaying his welcome, and he does feel special when he's there. So I think he's managed his his contract very nicely, but he's also checking off everything he's ever wanted to do. And I give him credit. He's getting paid a lot of money to do it. So turning heel is a nice change. And Edge's expressions throughout this entire segment of, hitting AJ with the low blow, that's great. Hitting him with the concerto, but being conflicted about it. Great storytelling from an expression standpoint. This guy he could teach an entire class on just facial expressions. He's so good of being able to communicate, not just verbally, but visually from his facial expressions. Just great. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the follow-up here is from AJ, and I'm sure he won't maybe be there next week. They'll probably sell the injury, or maybe he will be there, but Edge won't be there. He'll be there via satellite. They'll do a lot of that as Edge is now playing the heel. But I'm very interested in this match. Now they have gone from kind of disappointment at the initial onset of AJ's music hitting to, all right, you have me, let's go. That's amazing in just a few short minutes that they were able to do that.
Yeah, it definitely built up pretty quick there. In the weeks to come, I don't see a face-to-face encounter because, retaliation from AJ, you think it'd have to be pretty extreme. So I see them both setting promos individually over the next couple of weeks, and then you'll get your WrestleMania match that will definitely be something fun to see. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah. No, I'm impressed with WWE here in the final segment. I think that, and Edge is a lot to, I'm giving a lot of credit to Edge because this could be written on paper for somebody, but I think Adam Copeland playing Edge here is really the star, no pun intended, that is, or rather straw stirring the drink. And I think that this is going to be, I think it's going to be a great match. I have no concern about this. And now that they've shown me in 1 week, I'm interested in a match that I didn't know I wanted. So, all right. Well, Anthony, anything else regarding Raw or anything else quickly that you wanted to chat about before we close things out?
Nothing major. There was the little segment there with Vince McMahon and Austin Theory.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Theory alluding to, what if Pat McAfee goes and jumps you? I definitely think they're blowing out of proportion. But obviously, you see with media, thinking that Vince is going to get back into the ring, which I don't think we need to see that.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Thank you. Okay. I just praised Raw, and I thought overall Raw was very good. I give Raw like a B+. I'm B+, because I'm in a good mood. I give it a B+, and Raw does not do that on a regular basis. So, credit to the creative, credit to everybody on Raw. But this one was just bad. I have not been interested in Austin Theory, Vince McMahon at all from the beginning. I thought originally when he had the egg on his desk, who the hell keeps $100 million egg on their desk, by the way? And I thought it was leading to The Rock at Survivor Series. I was like, all right, this is stupid, but if it leads to The Rock, which comes and confronts Roman, fine. It led to none of that. It's just led to more months of Austin Theory getting berated and belittled by Vince McMahon in his office for no apparent reason. It's been no payoff. It's been ridiculous. And now this week, Austin Theory suddenly has something to say, and it's out of nowhere, just trying to get in Vince's head that Pat McAfee's going to attack him on his show. What evidence do you have exactly, Pat, to show us, or rather Austin Theory, what evidence is there that you would possibly come to that conclusion, other than we got to get to a match between Vince and Pat? It's a match nobody asked for, nobody wants to see. I don't need to see 75-year-old Vince McMahon in a ring. He wasn't good at 55. You think he's going to be good at 75 inside of a ring? And what the hell experience does Pat McAfee have? And there's nothing to this other than Vince maybe feels that he wants to get one more shot at a match at WrestleMania before he dies. And I think it's just complete narcissism to have yourself on a card that has really nobody asked for this match. Nobody wants to see it. There's zero interest in it, and it's going to be a guaranteed terrible matchup. Terrible. So, and by the way, Austin Theory, I tweeted this out. He said to Vince, "You haven't been on a sit-down interview format in 20 years." Did he forget that Vince was part of the Stone Cold podcast in 2015? He was the first guest on Stone Cold's podcast on the WWE Network. So, yeah, Austin Theory, you're wrong there, okay? That's the last time Vince, I believe, was on a show. So, just so much wrong with this. So much.
Yeah, I gotta say, I was quite glad that when Vince replied to Theory, he says it's not that kind of a show. So I don't think we'll be seeing that, although I think there will be some sort of altercation where, maybe we take the green Pat McAfee there and have a Pat McAfee versus a Theory matchup, which we're not asking for, but it's possible that we see it. And then when you went back to I caught that tweet, and that reminded me, just a couple weeks ago, I listened to that very interview, and I didn't know from when it was from, but because it shows up in the feed of Apple Podcasts, it's kind of new. And so I heard this Vince McMahon Stone Cold podcast, but they were talking about Bray Wyatt in it, and Vince McMahon was just giving high praise to his product, saying there's nothing wrong with it. And I mean, when you look now, I mean, there's definitely other flaws, but they're doing, the Raw's definitely made a good comeback, which I can appreciate, but yeah, we'll see what happens with this whole Austin Theory, Pat McAfee, and whatever happens.
I'd rather see, I mean, as preposterous as it is, and no one wants to see that either, as you said, Austin Theory and Pat McAfee, as bizarre of a match as that would be, and one-sided as it would be, I'd rather see that, because at least you'd have one guy in the ring that can really go, and it would be at least half okay. Whereas Vince McMahon and Pat McAfee would be a total disaster. I mean, and maybe it's just them trolling the rumors that have been going on over the last week or so about this matchup of Vince versus Pat being a part of WrestleMania. Maybe they're just trying to troll us, and it doesn't end up in anything, that they were just trying to get us all riled up, and it doesn't result in a matchup. And if that's fine, if that's what happens, fine. I'd rather have us try to be trolled than actually going through with this thinking it's something we want to see. It's not. So anyway, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So thank you for getting me all riled up. I couldn't end the show without a rant about something. I was being too nice to WWE. So you finally pulled the trigger on it, and thank you. So anything else, Anthony?
No, it's been a pleasure. I just want to put a quick shout out. I mean, like everybody that's been a host on this show. I mean, y'all are doing a great job. It's definitely part of my daily routine. I mean, I love the podcast. I love the community. I got to get on the mailbag sometime soon, but just enjoying the product, and I'm excited for the future.
Awesome. No, well, I appreciate you being a part of our community. I appreciate everybody who really takes the time out of the day. Everybody knows there are a million other podcasts out there, much bigger ones than ours, but we're climbing the charts. So I really do appreciate that. And, I encourage anybody to be a part of Patreon, and it's only $1. I mean, you get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ad-free shows and Discord and all that stuff. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, buddy. We'll definitely be doing this again, and you enjoy your night. And I apologize once again for having to redo the whole show twice, or at least in half. So you enjoy the rest of your evening.
You too. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.